Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Giddy up.
Hey, what's up? Good morning, brother.
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Yeah, so a couple episodes in a row.
You got a mic thing going on over there.
I know. What's going on with this?
Hey, yo-yo.
It's flying away. A couple episodes ago, man, I was really sick.
Yeah.
So now I'm over that.
Yeah, good.
Now I'm just really tired.
Good. You know, I thought we could play Sober.Coffee trivia at one point because a couple episodes ago you told me
we should do it live.
Yeah. You told me you outed yourself.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Brian, I said my last name a couple episodes ago.
I know. There are flags on the field.
I was so emphatic in the moment. Oh, I was reliving something.
Yeah, you were reliving something.
I didn't filter it out.
I did
was
it.
in the moment. I know you did.
I did it early on. So,
did
but we don't edit.
Did the feds show up?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Well, then I must be okay.
But I tried to get on a plane, and they said something about no fly list. I don't know.
No, there's another reason for that. In fact, the prior episode, did you ever tell this story?
Oh, about getting kicked out of Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, literally kicked out of Vegas.
Who does that?
So I was just in Vegas to see you two at the Sphere. And
you sent me a text.
No, they still had your wanted poster at the airport. They're using facial recognition.
They said, Mike.
How do you get kicked out of Vegas?
Well, they
I watched that movie Hangover. Yeah,
I know.
I mean, you can do some crazy stuff in Vegas.
Apparently, when it's checkout time in your room, you can't stay an extended 72 hours and just drink. That like you never leave your room.
I thought you were allowed to do. I thought that was common practice.
No, 72 hours. Apparently, there's something magical about 72
hours. So the 71th hour is okay.
Yeah, right.
You still get the bottles brought by room service at hour 71, but not at 72.
Hey, any housekeeping before we jump into our table for three?
No, I forget all our social
reach
media
out,
stuff.
Though. Reach out. We
reach
love
out
when
somewhere.
People reach out. Yeah, reach out somewhere. Podcast at Sober.Coffee, right?
Definitely. That's definitely one place to reach out. That's email podcast at Sober.Coffee. We're on Instagram, Sober.Coffee Pod. We're on at Stay Sober Today on Twitter or X. Whatever.
And if you're a reader, read our blogs. They're under writings.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? You don't toot your own horn, but, man, on our website, Sober.Coffee, and it's not sober.coffee.com.net. It's sober.coffee, right? And so it'll catch on Sunday. Trust me.
Right. Everyone's going to do it.
Yeah. So we have all the shows on there. We have a resource room. So when we talk about stuff, it pops up in the resource room, right? Reference.
Right.
And then we have the blogs or ratings. You don't call them blogs. You call them ratings.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure what the difference is, but I'm telling you, there's some real meat and potatoes in there. Stuff that... I hear from people, they're like, man, that stuff changed my life. Yeah, so I appreciate you doing that, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's cathartic, You get it out on
paper. So it's
and,
not written by ChatGPT?
No, never. We did one. One time I asked ChatGPT how to get sober. And it came back. So I did one blog on that, but it came back with 5 recommendations, and AA was at the top of its list. So
the only thing that worked for me. So
sad. So hey, listen, we got a table for 3 today.
I know, man, we're kind of being ignorant. Not,
I didn't even set the timer yet.
like we ever follow it.
Glenn hates the timer.
Right. Well, it's just ridiculous because we never follow it. I mean, why turn it on? I mean, the thing beeps at 18 minutes, and we just keep on talking for another 20. What does it matter?
I know, right?
I love you, man.
I love you, too.
So
listen, we got a table for 3 today.
All right.
Elizabeth, hello.
Good morning.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to have you.
In the studio.
Here. Yeah, in studio.
Not by Zoom, in the studio.
No, but though when she talks, I'm going to make like a crackling Zoom talk, sound like...
That's how you sound on Zoom.
Yeah, right. So glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. So we, we frequent the same meetings, 7 a.m. Why do we go to 7 a.m. meetings? I mean,
way to start the
day. I know why I do. Let me ask you. It is a great way to start the day. But what made you start going to 7 a.m. meetings? I mean, that's just that's serious stuff.
It worked for me.
Yeah.
When I came into the rooms, the 7 a.m. saved my life.
Yeah.
I found what I was looking for.
And that's something.
And I get to go to those meetings.
Was it your first meeting ever, a 7 a.m. meeting?
No, it was not. I went to the Thanksgiving Elkathon was the first time I went into
Which year?
Mokina Fellowship. It was 2022.
2022?
November of 2022.
Oh.
So I've been in 7 a.m.s. I see there recently. That's only because you go more often than I do. But, I mean, I've gone to 7 a.m.s for, I can't remember, 2008?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. They're a great way to start the day. I mean, look, I used to
Great
start
meeting.
the day
Great people.
with a bottle on my lips.
Me
you know?
too.
And so if I could do that, I can certainly get in the car and head over to a meeting, which is somewhat more productive.
Different way to start the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So
So how long have you been sober now?
January 20th is my sober date.
All
So
right.
in
January
a few
20th
days,
of
11
when?
months of 2023.
yeah.
Give me bumps, man. Way to
Yes.
go. Almost coming up.
Yes.
That is awesome. That is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and this will actually drop right in that period, right in that same time zone. So
Oh, that's
Oh, that's so
fantastic.
wonderful.
yeah.
I know. I was on social media. Did you follow people on social media?
Sober people.
Sober
I
people?
do.
Yeah.
Some. I follow
So-
you guys.
Oh, there you go.
I apologize for that. But no, there's this one real famous sober guy, and he's like, "Hey, man, in 2 months I'll have 6 years," and you know I feel about that. So I dropped in, caused quite a stir. I'm like, hey, man, in 11 and a half years I'll have 20. I mean, come on, man, and and I'm judging here, and I apologize, but. I mean, I think if in almost 6 years you haven't learned that,
Yeah.
you haven't been paying attention,
Yeah.
right? You just count for today. You just live for
Just
today.
for
You count
today.
for today.
Yeah. That's all we have, really.
But in 11 and a half years, I'll have 20 years sober.
I'll get you a chip.
Come on, man. It's awesome.
I'll get you an almost 20-year chip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 11 months and plus, right?
Coming up on 11 months.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. Yeah, and it's you're such an inspiration because you do come in with a bounce in your step.
Absolutely.
And it seems to me that, and people said this sometimes about me. Sometimes they said I was a little over my skis, but sometimes
Still
they said,
are.
"Man, how do you get all this stuff?" Well, because I pay attention. I'm like a sponge to what's going on, and I think you are too. You're just a sponge to what's going on, and it's
Yes.
very inspirational.
Well, thank you. When I finally started to listen, to the rooms.
Right.
When I first
But you
came
listen
in,
kind of quickly
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it took me a while to listen.
Yeah, it did.
it took me a couple months.
Yeah.
I came in November, and my sober date is January 20th. So it took a little while.
Right.
But when I started to listen to all of you, it really changed my life.
So I'm sitting here kind of surprised because, I mean, I've seen you in 10 meetings maybe. When I just think quality, I mean, I thought you would have had 20 years
I know.
sober. Just the way you interact.
Almost. 6
Yeah.
months. In about 20 years.
19 years.
That's right.
19
2
years,
months.
1.5 months, right?
Yeah.
God. No, really. I mean, you just have
Yeah,
a
just
a
your-
great presence and just quality is. I mean, just how you interact and things you say, and I get value out of it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, so do-
I'm surprised.
So do responsees.
How many
so-
sponsees you have?
I have one.
Yes.
I work with a wonderful woman.
What's his name?
About
Oh.
2 months. Yeah, I'm very blessed. When I came into the rooms, if it wasn't for all of you sharing what you had with me, it's inspiring, and I wanted desperately what you had.
Right.
And I was willing to do anything to do it, and that meant showing up and listening and participating. I've spoken a few times, and it's changed my life, and I won't give up what I have now.
Right.
I won't go back. So I did what you said, take a bath in AA, they say.
Yeah.
And it's
I haven't heard that line in a long time. That's a go
I
take
haven't
a
either.
bath in AA.
yeah, take a bath in AA.
Good one. So let's rewind the clock a bit. I mean, what was so bad about life? I mean, you seem
Well, I was wondering that too until she's like, "Well, I was drinking at 7 a.m. also." I'm like,
okay, yeah,
Yes,
right, yeah.
yes.
Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to this point of transformation.
All right. Well, my parents married pretty young. Forest Park is where I was born, West Side. And they're both very witty, smart alcoholics. They married young and had 3 kids in 3.5 years and divorced in less than 10. When they divorced, we moved to Florida, and my mom married another alcoholic, my stepfather, and It was unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of turmoil and physical and emotional abuse. A lot of drinking, a lot. But my brother and sister and I, we had each other,
Right.
and I always said I would never be like them.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
I
And that's
really
something.
did. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was good in school. Played sports, but I had good friends. Their parents, saw what was going on at home. I spent a lot of time with my very best friend. She's an only child, and started high school. Had some trauma there, and things changed. I became very scared.
Mm-hmm.
Fear.
Fear.
Of everything.
Yeah.
I later found out I was, afraid to even live, afraid to be myself.
Right.
I'd become a chameleon because if I could make things good at home, and not cause any waves, roll with the punches, if you will,
Right.
change in a second. I adapted to doing that, and
Which wasn't your true north.
no, it's not. I'm, I definitely am a people person at school. Up until roughly freshman year, it was a social butterfly. I was, very much. I loved school. It was an escape. It was a happy place for me.
So you really excelled. Cheerleaders, student council,
I did
sports.
student council. I did soccer.
Soccer,
no
yeah, right.
cheerleading,
Oh.
but yeah.
Oh, so you instead of getting the crowd all, you were knocking people over on the soccer field. Okay.
Yeah. We loved it. There was a group of us.
That's great.
4 of us that were on the boys' team for a few years.
Okay.
And yeah, it was wonderful. I had a core group of friends. I went all through school since
Excellent.
kindergarten.
Okay.
With. I was sexually assaulted when I was 15, and that's what really catapulted me into myself. I started smoking weed a lot, even though it didn't really agree with me. It gave me anxiety, but it was an escape. It was something different. I didn't want to think or be me anymore. I started skipping school a lot, and so I didn't graduate with my class. And I started working in the restaurant industry, and that was perfect for me. I could smile on your face and then go behind closed doors and talk poorly of you, and anything to not be myself or draw attention to me. And that industry really, I excelled in it because you work, cash, go out all night, drink.
Sure.
You don't start at 7 a.m.
No,
sleep in,
right,
do it all over
right,
again.
yeah.
And in my early 20s,
Sounds appealing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I wanted to do something different. My sister she had left home immediately after
Sure.
graduation.
She escaped.
Escaped to Chicago, up here to Oak Park, and my brother, after high school, went to culinary school, became a chef. He moved back up to Illinois as well, Chicago.
Okay.
Did his externship up here. I had a very codependent relationship with my mother. I got a DUI at 19.
Oh, good morning.
Of course, it wasn't my fault.
Never.
Yeah. Later on in life, I lied so much about what occurred that night. Later
you
on
almost
in life,
bought it.
I did.
You believed it. Yeah.
And I started a new job about 7 months ago through a wonderful person that I met in the program. And I had to do a background check, and it all came back to me. Hit and run, leaving the scene of a crime. I had a felony, but it was dropped down. But those are all things that I had lied so much about to myself and to others. I bought it.
Yeah.
So I decided I wanted to move to Chicago as well. My brother had moved back to Florida. My mom was moving up here as well, and like I said, very codependent. She's an alcoholic and an addict.
Right.
And so we moved up here. And about 5 months in, police came to our door. My brother had been murdered in Florida. It was spring break. It was actually 2 individuals from Chicago, from Bridgeview. And that changed, everything, of course.
Yeah.
We were very close. We used to come home, and whoever was home first, we would say, what kind of mood is she in?
Right, sure,
so we can
sure.
get a heads up on, what to do or say, with my mom, whether she was drinking blackout or, hungover, so that, and my mother then sunk deeper,
Sure she did,
into pills and alcohol. So it became a point in my life that I started to hate God, So I had nothing really to live for or to count on,
Right.
And I was still working in the restaurant bartending industry, worked downtown, and I did this for a number of years. And
Just
it's a
repetitive,
progressive-
same old thing every
same
day.
thing over and over again. I lost a job for drinking on the job with customers, and
You're
of course, it wasn't my fault.
you're working in a bar. I mean, you
Yeah.
would think that you could drink.
Yeah, a lot of late nights and sleeping in.
Thought you get promoted over that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It wasn't frowned upon, that's for sure. And then I wanted to do again something different. This is a few years of progressive drinking. It hadn't become the mornings yet, but it was every day, every single day, and not just a couple beers, but. So I decided to go back to school, and I went downtown, Harold Washington. I worked full time. I started working for a tour company in the office there for my mother. Again, very codependent. I did that for a couple years, full time school, full time working, and I started drinking vodka. And at the end, when I was getting my associates, at the very end, I started drinking vodka in my big gulps and bringing it to my night classes.
Right.
And within about 2 years, I started taking Vicodin, Norcos, and became addicted heavily. And that really catapulted me. I would wake up and take pills every day, and then drink. I had a set routine. 3 o'clock, I'd stop taking the pills, so I'd have some more for tomorrow. And
Rookie.
start drinking.
I'd scramble in the morning for more.
Yeah, so did my mom. She would always know
Yeah,
I
and
had
I-
some and ask me for it.
Yeah, I'd always run out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I was working at this job, and, addiction's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So we started, stealing. Padding the books is the nice way of saying it,
Right.
but stealing from this
Sure.
company.
Right.
After a few years, 3 years of this, and my coworkers knew. This company had a lot of alcoholics, a lot of transient people, because it was seasonal. People that,
Right.
not a lot of pay, wouldn't cause a wave, wouldn't go on unemployment in the winter.
Right.
I worked there year round, but it became evident to my bosses. I wasn't caught. My mother was. We were both fired, and I lied about it. I told a whole story of how the company closed and sold that to everybody. At this point, I'd moved to Westmont, to the west suburbs, and I was in the depths of the pill addiction. I was going to school out there. I'd transferred to college at DuPage, and I was failing. I was getting C's, and
So-
you can't see your way through it.
And this is somebody who excelled in school.
I
Excelled.
loved it.
Yeah.
And when I was going downtown, I did excel still. But then after the combination of the pills and the alcohol, I couldn't.
It's hard to have A-level game at that point.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
sure it is.
I couldn't keep anything. Nothing stayed. I would read, and it was like I never read it at all.
Right.
So I, after a few semesters of having to retake advanced A&P, because you can't get C's, I stopped going, and eventually moved out to the suburbs. Still trying to get off the pills,
Right.
which was
Tough.
catapulted. My drinking in the mornings.
Mhm,
So
gotcha.
I
There you go.
substituted that for the pills, and those detoxes were rough.
Rough.
And so I started drinking in the mornings. I would toss and turn in bed for a few hours before I went for the drinks. And that became my life for quite a few years, hiding it. I was a very good liar. I hid it very well. I hid it around my house. I had a routine. I was obsessed. I had a very strict routine of how to get rid of them. How I was not lazy with my drinking. I made sure I hid it well and lied to everybody. Except my sister. She could tell. It was a combination deal with my mom and I. My sister, who got married, started having children, And every holiday, every party, every occasion, I would drive my mother. It was a tag team, so that stress and that anxiety that she had to endure, silently for years, finally came out. And she said to me, "You are an alcoholic and you need AA." Now, she had done Al-Anon.
Okay.
Early on, she'd done therapy, still does, and she had, tried for years to get me.
What was your response?
The typical alcoholic.
You're full
forget
of
you.
Shit. Forget you.
Forget
yeah,
you.
Right.
No,
right.
I'm not.
No, I'm not.
I'm just drinking mimosas at noon.
That's right.
I haven't been drinking since 6 a.m.
That's right.
And I didn't speak to her for about 4 months.
Sure.
And at this point, I was off the pills. I had ended up in the hospital. I tore my esophagus and my stomach liner. My hair was falling out. My nails were falling off.
You were a mess.
What's
girl.
that called? Isn't it called like varices or
Yeah,
when your esophagus falls
Esophagus,
apart?
yeah.
You were a mess, girl. You were a mess.
Yeah. And I again lied.
Right.
I told everybody it was bleeding ulcers, which
Right.
it was.
Sure.
I did have ulcers,
Yeah.
but I spent 5 days Silver Cross, and scared my sister, but lied, and I that's when I got off the pills, but the drinking was just accelerated even more, which I didn't think possible.
right.
I was spending probably $30 a day on alcohol, and I did the finances. So even though I didn't go into debt, I had to maneuver a lot of things, and bills were late.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister then, after this, about a year and a half, this one she told me, "You're an alcoholic," and so I cut her out of my life.
Sure.
I stopped
I've done that,
talking to her.
Who are you to tell me?
Yeah.
Oh
right.
yeah, you're wrong. And I knew she was right. I knew I was an alcoholic
Right.
since I was probably about 19.
Right.
And I heard her words every morning when I woke up. After feeling all that guilt and shame, you wake up. I would think, what did I make for dinner last night that I normally wouldn't eat? But that would be my first way to remember, try to piece together the night before. If I could just remember
God,
what
remember
I
how
cooked.
painful that was? God, I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore.
Looking at your phone,
Oh, my
Who'd I
gosh.
text? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I started
Who'd
to
I call?
isolate so severely that I stopped the drunken texts and calls for a couple years before I quit, because I was so, I didn't think I was hurting anybody else, and I was.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for my friends and family through
Yeah,
their
right.
good times and bad times, and I'd cut really everybody out of my life, and so after about 4 months, I just had enough. I had terrible thoughts. I thought, people would be better off without me. My family, my friends, my husband would be better off without me, and that really scared me. A few times on Xanax and alcohol, I had taken too many purposefully twice in my late 20s and early 30s. Those were isolated.
Yeah.
But I started to have those thoughts, and I knew I needed help. So I, started looking for AA meetings.
So was there a particular moment in a particular morning where you said, "I'm going to go to an AA meeting," or did it just kind of end up on your Outlook calendar and you went?
Well, there was one morning that I'll never forget, that I had gone downstairs, gotten out of bed. I had the alcohol already for me. I knew how to crack these strong
Yes,
type
seals.
drinks, yeah. And I sat down on the couch and in the dark, and the second one in, I remember smiling, just this evil smile of, here it goes, feeling the alcohol.
Yeah.
The shaking stopped. I shook.
yeah.
I couldn't. I would give the money to the or swipe my card at the gas station that started selling at 6 a.m. and then think, how can they not see my hands? The dry heaving, and so when the drinks I would finally feel that type of release. I remember just smiling this evil smile, and I just had this feeling of just, I can't do this anymore, because it was scary. It had overtaken my whole life.
Right.
I had never been someone. I didn't go a day without drinking, but I was one of those people. I'll quit tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I'll
right.
quit tomorrow.
Oh, sure.
I'll quit tomorrow.
My favorite word, tomorrow.
Yeah. And start it all over again. If I didn't have alcohol in the house, which was rare, I would go, as soon as I could to the gas station.
So you have this moment on the couch, and then you say, and you've got the seed of AA in the back of your head because you knew of it, and then you just trudged out one day and just boldly walked into a meeting?
Yeah, a few days later, I had 6 different meetings, and I was still drinking, and went to St. Edmund's in Joliet, and it was the first one I ever walked into. People were very nice. I did not say it was my first meeting.
Were you drunk?
Good call.
Oh, I was drunk.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And by the way, way to go undercover.
Yeah.
Because,
they couldn't smell me
That's
a
right.
mile away.
I love it. We think we're so smart. We got it all figured out.
Yeah, I left the alcohol in the car, so of course,
Well,
I'm
that's
not
nice.
drinking.
Yeah,
Yeah, I lied, but omission, and I did 3 of those, and there was a couple that ran the meeting. It was a Tuesday night meeting, Steel City, and they gave me a book my second time, and this is
Was it blue?
Yes, it was blue, and it was
That's
one
the
of
right
theirs. Yeah, it was. It was a used book. It wasn't brand new.
Yeah.
And I said I didn't have any money, and they said just come back. And so I had I'd written down a few places, and Mokina Fellowship was on there, and it was close to my home.
Right.
This was close to Thanksgiving. Pardon me. And I thought it was a meeting, and I went in, and it was their Alcathon where they have the doors open. So I walked in with my blue book. And there were wonderful people there that didn't judge me. And I spoke to some of them. I was drunk.
Yeah.
I left, because it was an Alcathon, so it was people milling around. I was shocked. I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
I saw, people laughing.
What's that?
Yeah. Oh, I thought.
What's so funny?
Yeah. I felt safe when I went in there, but I didn't
Really?
think I'd ever be a part of.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, I felt safe. I instantly felt safe when I went in there, but
Interesting.
I thought I'd always be on the outside. I'd never be with them because I didn't know what was ahead of me. I hadn't had a sober day in years. I would venture to say over a decade.
How many of these meetings did it take before you had a sober day?
Quite a few. I went to one day, 5 meetings in one day, still drinking.
Still drinking.
Yeah. About 2 months in, I went every day. I went to different meetings, not just at the fellowship, but
Everywhere.
Yeah, I went back to Joliet. I did all over, and I even took notes. I had a little spiral book that I took these drunken notes that I kept that book. Scribbled things down, but I wasn't listening.
Right.
I wasn't listening. I'd listened a little bit about the 12 steps, and I remember looking at them and thinking, oh, number 3, that'll never be me, because I had a deep
Right,
disdain.
sure you did.
I guess it was easy for me to channel my anger and rage at the things I had done, and I felt were done to me and others, especially my brother. I channeled that to a hate almost for God.
Right.
It was easy to take that, and I wore it like a blanket.
Yeah.
I knew that feeling. So, I would have what I called the witching hour. The booze comes in, everything's fine, and then I would lose my stuff. I'd become passive aggressive. I'd flip out about anything.
Survivor.
Yeah, it would.
So what led to that, to you opening the book and saying, okay, I'm going to do step 1? And then when did you find a sponsor? And
Yeah, I had been going to meetings, and I used to say I couldn't quit. Now I say I wouldn't quit. And I'd been to 3 that day. It was evening time, and I was home, and I was back in that place of pity, crying. I can't do this. And it was a couple hours of this, and self-loathing, and I went to my room, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and I'd been to these meetings and a couple months of this, and I got down on my knees and I asked God, I begged God for help, and said I would do whatever it took. And I had a moment. I felt God, and that was January 18th. It's a powerful feeling. It's hard to explain out in the wild. When you're not in the rooms, people might think you're crazy, but I felt my higher power. And it was quiet, and a feeling came over me. And I went to bed that night, and the next day I cleaned everything out of my house. I had weed in the house still. I had quit that. The anxiety had become so much, but I had been a daily smoker as well for years. I quit that when I started AA as well, but I still had stuff in my house.
You're an overachiever.
Yeah,
Let's
I
clean
quit
the
that
entire
before the
house in one
alcohol.
day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got rid of everything. This Yeti, I have this for 2 years. I had only had alcohol in it, so I got rid of that. Hid it.
Yeah.
And the next day, I was on the road. I was going to a meeting, but I had to go get on 80. And that's a fun highway. And just getting on the on ramp, and a miracle happened for me. This was my first sober morning in well over a decade, and I got behind this big dump truck, and I'll never forget it. And at this point, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would have been 3 hours into drinking with alcohol on me in my car. And I was in the middle lane. I just got on to 80, and this dump truck just started dropping out huge cinder blocks, cement, right in front of my vehicle. And at first I thought, what are those styrofoam pieces flying out of there? And, as quick as it happened, a truck behind me, a cobalt blue truck, an 18-wheeler, I looked in my mirror and it's flashing its lights. And it must have slammed on its brakes because it was almost next to me when I got in the lane. And I got in front of it and missed these huge, massive pieces of cement. And I would have been drunk at that moment.
Yeah.
I would have not been able to get out of the way. And it was a miracle that I felt. And I knew...
this shit works.
Yeah. I knew that my higher power was there
Brain
with
marker.
me. And I went to the 10 a.m. meeting. It was a Friday, January 20th. And, I left my debit card at home for a couple days, afraid that, that pull would be there.
Yeah,
Good for you.
absolutely.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Just safeguarding.
Yeah.
I still leave my debit card home. I just bring my Visa.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding.
That Sunday, I put my debit card back in my wallet because I didn't have that pull, that obsession,
Isn't that
that urge. It's
amazing.
Something I never thought possible.
That feeling, you just gave me goosebumps, right? Because that feeling, I remember on October 13th, 2018, I didn't know what the answer was, but I instinctively knew inside I had an answer. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
For the Mr. I can't or I won't, as you said, went immediately. That feeling was gone.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, I think that's the point of surrender, because now it's no longer on your shoulders. And Elizabeth, I heard you say that. I wrote it down. And I love what you said. It's not, you wouldn't quit. Right. So that's great. So you start diving in. When sponsor? Did you get a sponsor? What step are you on now?
Yes, I did get a sponsor who I still have. Wonderful. I'd seen her in the rooms. And 2 days later, it was that Sunday after the 7 a.m. meeting. I asked her, it's funny enough, I had asked her once before, but in my, buzzworthiness, I, fumbled it. She, kind of didn't understand what I was saying about being my sponsor. I was drinking, of course, and we kind of left it at that. She didn't really know what I meant, and I thought she was saying no to me. And so I asked her again, and she's still with me today. And I was her first sponsee.
Wow.
She has 5 other ones now.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful. My crew, my girl gang,
your
my
girl
sisters,
gang.
my sober
Right.
sisters.
Right.
Nothing better than a girl gang or a
let
guy
me tell
gang,
you.
brother
Right.
gang.
Yes, this is true.
I mean, it really makes a difference. So what step are you on?
Well, I work the steps in my daily life,
Right.
but I've gone and done the steps. So
So you've done step 8, 9, and
8, 9, all of them.
That's powerful.
It was very important to my sponsor that we meet every week and work on the steps,
Right.
no matter what. She did this for all of her sponsees, but had a wonderful workbook. And we started going through the steps. The big book, we met for the first time and laid out a plan, of meetings and things like that. I'd of course heard 90 and 90.
Right.
Oh, I did a lot more than that. About 160.
Yeah.
And because it was important to me.
Yes.
I did not want to give up that feeling
Right.
of freedom, of not having the obsession. I never thought it possible. I thought I would always be white knuckling it.
Right.
But because of my higher power, all of you in the rooms, my sponsor, fellow alcoholics and addicts. Yeah. I'm blessed that, I was relieved of that. I am today, not obsessed, but just for today.
Yeah. So paint a picture, Elizabeth. You're sober. You're still within that first year. Mm-hmm. List like 2 or 3 things that, what's life like today that gives hope for somebody where they're like, I'm not sure if I could do it, where they're in the wouldn't quit mode, right? And they're like, this thing won't work. Name 2 or 3 things that just are different for you today, that somebody might be able to latch onto.
I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared.
So you're not fear driven.
No.
So the steps certainly help you with that.
Oh yeah, the steps. I
promises.
never thought 3 would be for me. And when I got down on my knees that very first time, it changed my life. And then 4 and 5, I forgave myself, set me free. You hear a lot in the rooms about 4 and 5, and I was still in the beginning where I would let other people's fear creep in. But I spent a lot of time, my sponsor and I, every Sunday, it became we were going to meet for a couple hours, and all of a sudden it was 5 hours. We're making lunch, we're making dinner, we're making bread, spending that time talking, really, really getting to know each other, being open and honest for the first time in my life, about the things that I've gone through, the things I've done. So when I did 4 and 5, it was a beautiful experience.
And it wasn't a hit and run. It was, no pun intended. It was a it was thorough. It sounds to me like you guys really unpacked it and really dove into it.
Yeah, we did. There really wasn't too much for on 4 for me to share with her, my higher power. On 5 that I hadn't already discussed with her. No judgments.
Thorough.
Yeah.
No, there's never any judgments. So before we jumped on live, we were talking about fun, that you're like the queen of fun.
Oh, yeah.
So what does that look like? Because a lot of people think, oh, my gosh, I get sober, man. I'm just going to trudge.
I'm gonna be at my sponsor's house making bread, talking about my defects. That don't sound like
or
fun.
That 8-hour Uno game I played. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So what does fun look like? What does?
Oh, it's wonderful. This is the best life I've ever lived. It's the only good life I've ever known. So I want to share that. I want to share that with my fellow alcoholics and addicts. And I do. We do a lot of activities. Last night I saw one of my best friends, Herd. We went to a sober living home. That's fun to me. Going in, and I go to a speaker meeting every single Sunday at Sunday breakfast. It's my routine. We do wonderful activities together.
You do pickleball.
Pickleball. We went to the symphony.
Okay, you went to the symphony.
Speaking of Danny G.
Right, the symphony,
the
right.
We went all these things
you would never do. You would never
No.
take in a symphony.
No, there would be alcohol in my bag.
Sure,
it would be
right.
When's it going to be over?
You'd be so obsessed.
Oh,
I was
obsessed.
anyway. With where's the bottle? Is it leaking? Is it? Do I have enough? Are people going to know? Are they going to frisk me on the way in?
Yeah. Will I have enough? How will I open the water bottle without it making a noise?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it was pickleball.
Yeah.
It started in the very, very beginning. My sponsor said, all right, you're going to be in charge of this. She found the place, and we have a wonderful message board with all of our announcements on it. And she said, put your name and your number.
So
and
you're to blame about the pickleball
I'm
on the
slugger.
message board.
She started the whole thing.
Yeah, that's.
But it's funny
on
in
me.
early sobriety how that would be an easy task, but for me, I was assigned to a couple things like that, and I'm like, I lost all my confidence in the world. I'm like, I can't do that. And my sponsor's like, yes, you can. I'm like, it just seemed like serving the coffee was like a monumental event because I was in such a bad place.
Oh yeah, I was scared to do the coffee for fear that I would mess it up.
Yeah, right,
No,
right.
Can you imagine?
Right.
But you know what you learn? It doesn't matter if you mess it up.
Yeah.
Just like you said, people don't judge. It's a very safe, welcoming place, the rooms of AA.
Can I ask you, how's your sister?
Oh, my best friend. She's wonderful.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's the most
That's the
beautiful
promises.
relationship in my life, and she's so proud of me. You
I
really
know, right?
would think she won $1 billion.
Yeah.
She tells me
She
we talk
did.
every day. Yeah, we talk every day. We text every day. When we talk, it's over an hour, so we text every day.
So you can't do that. You can't
yeah.
do that every day.
No,
So,
no, we text every day.
here's
though.
someone you wouldn't talk to. You'd totally reject it because she had
Mm-hmm.
the audacity to call you out for what you were. Right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel that. There was people I shut out of my life because they made a snide comment to me, and I thought, forget you. Yep.
About my drinking, yeah.
And now it's come around for me as well, where they're valued and they only wanted the best for me. That's
Oh,
all
of
they ever
course.
wanted. But there was nothing she could have said. It took that moment on your couch. It took that moment of the mirror, right after the mirror. It took that moment. It didn't matter what she said. It wouldn't have mattered. She could have said it with love. She could have said it with spite. She could have said it with anything. It didn't matter until you went to the I will.
Yes, and I surrendered, and
Yeah.
I will do this. Because I was desperate,
Right.
and it was on me, to do it. There's nothing anybody could have said. I absolutely did that as well. Anybody that would make any comment about my drinking, that was it.
That was it.
know,
You're out.
It was over.
You're up.
So I want to bounce something to you. One of my most profound moments in sobriety in AA. I mean, when you mentioned the word listening, I certainly listened. I worked the steps, but my working the steps was like level one. When I had a sponsee, my first sponsee, and I started working the steps alongside them, because every time I have a sponsee, I rework the steps with them. I have them do homework assignments. I do the same thing, and it's a multiplier. I learned 90% of what I know through AA and what I've experienced in AA through working with somebody else, not on my own. There's so much value in that. So I'm really cool.
You find that the same way? Are you finding that you're learning more now that you have a sponsee and
Absolutely,
you have to step up and your
It
game?
really,
and-
yeah, sure,
yeah.
because it's extremely important to me.
Isn't it? It is
absolutely.
extremely important.
And the 12 step is a superpower. I mean, that's what
Oh,
I
yeah.
have found is that 12 step. I mean, that's when my life really got new purpose is that 12 step. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be a servant. I'm going to serve. My whole life, I wanted people to serve me. And that 12 step taught me my turn to serve somebody else. Serve
Carry
them
the
coffee.
message.
Yeah. Just
The irony is, Elizabeth probably served you somewhere along the road. She served you a drink, and
Yeah.
the only way she would have served me if she sold me my bottle at the liquor store.
Yeah, right,
I didn't go to bars for years. I was a solo drinker.
hey, you know what I'd love to do?
Come back.
Yes, I'd love to come back next week and just talk about the fun, because we mentioned pickleball and the symphony and stuff, but there is, I just want to talk about life after surrender.
It's awesome.
And just, can we do that?
Yeah, because a
Elizabeth,
lot of
you
people
come
don't
back?
have an
I
accurate
would love
picture.
to.
Good, yeah.
Yep, that's great.
All right,
Elizabeth,
awesome.
man, love having you come in. Thank you very much for taking the time, and I look forward to having you again.
See you next week.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Nice.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago.